Hi everyone, and welcome to a special Ask the Experts webcast on prostate cancer, lifestyle, exercise and nutrition. My name is Ricardo Goncalves. I'm a presenter and business journalist at SBS, and on behalf of Prostate Cancer Foundation of Australia, thank you very much for joining us. If you are joining us live, welcome, and we'll wait a few more minutes before jumping into our panel discussion so that others can join in. If you are watching this delayed, remember, there are other webcasts located on the Prostate Cancer Foundation of Australia website, which you can watch at a later time. So over the next hour, our panel will go through everything you need to know about the importance of exercise, diet, and maintaining a healthy lifestyle in relation to prostate cancer. So things like, what does a healthy lifestyle mean? What should the goals be? How can exercise support treatment outcomes and reduce side effects? And are there diets that can help prevent or treat prostate cancer? Now, this webcast won't be covering topics like testing or treatment for localised or advanced prostate cancer, which are featured in our previous episodes. So with that in mind, we asked you to send through some questions during our registration process, which we'll use as a guide for the discussion here this afternoon, which our panel will discuss. And our panel includes Dr Katelyn Barnes, who is an accredited practicing dietitian and researcher at the Academic Unit of General Practice at Australia National University and ANU Canberra Hospital. Katelyn has a background in food science with a focus on chronic disease management, with her more recent research focused on physical activity counselling and the evidence behind nutrition guidelines for men on androgen deprivation therapy and hormone therapy. Next to Dr Katelyn is Ross Campbell, who was diagnosed with prostate cancer and underwent a radical prostatectomy in 2013. He became a member of Prost Exercise Group to help overcome the issues with the procedure and is currently the group leader and board secretary for the group. Ross is a retired electrical contractor who ran his own company for 30 years. Next to Ross is Professor Rob Newton, who is an accredited exercise physiologist, is Associate Dean of Medical and Exercise Sciences and co-director of the Exercise Medicine Research Institute, School of Medical and Health Sciences at Edith Cowan University. He leads a world-leading research group who have demonstrated the benefits of exercise as a medicine to improve treatment side effects and quality for life for men with prostate cancer. And next to Professor Rob is Adjunct Professor Sally Sara, who we welcome back to the series. Sally is the Director of Nursing Programs at Prostate Cancer Foundation of Australia. She holds a Master of Clinical Nursing and has 30 years nursing experience in a broad range of specialty areas. In 2014, Sally established the Prostate Cancer Specialist Nurse Service in the Southern Adelaide Local Health Network. So that's our panel, and welcome to our panel. Thank you for joining us. Katelyn, maybe we should start with you. Why is diet important when experiencing prostate cancer?
Diet is important for everyone to maintain health and well-being, but it's particularly important in prostate cancer survivorship because prostate cancer survivors are at a greater risk of other lifestyle and diet-related disorders like type 2 diabetes, obesity, metabolic syndrome, and cardiovascular disease. But we do have some diets that can help support or prolong healthfulness before getting to that stage.
Okay, I guess we'll go into a lot of those more detail later on. Rob, why is exercise important when experiencing prostate cancer?
Certainly. Well, humans are meant to exercise. We're meant to move every day, and unfortunately a lot of us don't, and that's causing many of the chronic disease issues that we see emerging. It's particularly important for someone with prostate cancer or any cancer because you have so many other factors going on. In particular, many of the treatments for the cancer as well certainly exacerbate a lot of the chronic diseases that we've already mentioned. And so exercise along with diet is just an absolute critical strategy for reducing your risk of developing those other chronic disease such as type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, heart disease. But also if you have those existing conditions, preventing them from further getting worse.
Ross, how did exercise help you with your own experience?
Thank you, Ricardo. Being fit and exercising both prior to and after my prostatectomy certainly helped me to come to continence in an early fashion, and also to return to a fully fit and active life, and good for mental health as well.
Great. We'll talk about exactly what you did later on. Sally, what's the nurse's role when it comes to exercise and nutrition?
Nurses have a really important role to play in terms of promoting awareness about the benefits, both physical and psychological, in participating in good exercise programs and also having a healthy diet. They're really well placed to encourage men to participate, to help them overcome barriers, help access programs, and to help with goal setting, really short-term, medium-term, long-term goals. So they've got a really critical role to play.
Okay. What I want to do now is take a closer look and spend some time on nutrition. So, Katelyn, we'll start with you. What does a well-balanced diet look like? And is it different for someone with prostate cancer compared with someone without prostate cancer?
That's a good question. A well-balanced diet is incorporating a variety of foods, simply because the variety of foods give you a variety of nutrients to maintain your health. A well-balanced diet for people with prostate cancer and people without prostate cancer could be different depending on the prostate cancer treatments, but in general, it should be the same. So hopefully, if we go into it a bit more, we can explore some of the healthful diets.
And what about diets for weight loss?
Diets for weight loss are, again, a well-balanced, healthful diet. It's good to be focusing on things like fresh fruits and vegetables, non-processed foods, things that you would associate with a healthful diet, really.
Right. But when we talk about healthy, do you think the general public understands what healthy is and what a balanced diet actually means? I mean, is there some sort of a tree or a pyramid we need to look at, for example?
There are guides for healthy diet, for sure. For example, you've got the Eat for Health, which is set up by the Australian government, focusing on the fresh fruits and vegetables down the bottom of the pyramid and fats at the top, going for those healthy fats over anything else. There are a couple of other diets that have evidence behind them as well, including the Mediterranean diet, which has, again, a focus on those fresh fruits and vegetables.
What exactly is in the Mediterranean diet?
So there's a high amount of fresh fruits and vegetables. That's at the bottom of what they would have as their pyramid. Also a focus on whole grains, which are things like whole oats, brown rice, grainy breads. They give you a lot of fiber. Then there's a section for meats, mostly seafoods in the Mediterranean diet, and then fats at the limiting top of your pyramid. Yeah. There's also the DASH diet, which is for cardiovascular disease prevention and treatment. Again, focusing on fresh fruits and vegetables being that bottom of the pyramid, whole grains, and then going up towards your animal products and your fats at the top of the pyramid.
So, Sally, I might jump in with you. We heard about a number of these diets. What do nurses do when patients ask questions of special diets? And then maybe can we go into the differences if organics make a difference or whether or not one should avoid meat and dairy, for example?
So when nurses are faced with questions like that, it's really important to tailor the answer to the question and pick it apart a bit. And really, we stress the importance of making a decision that's based on really good quality evidence. And sometimes that's a discussion about the types of evidence that are out there, the different types of, from a personal opinion in an article to right through to a systematic review of a randomised controlled trial. So sometimes we even go to that level of talking about what's the quality of evidence. But underpinning all of it is stressing the importance of having a healthy, balanced diet, and reminding men that the impact of that healthy diet really in terms of reducing the risks of other health conditions along the way. Sometimes the focus is always on the prostate cancer itself, but forgetting that a healthy diet has benefits in terms of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, other cancers or that sort of thing. So it really is important to tailor that answer to the specific question. In terms of your questions about meat and dairy and that sort of thing, I might defer to Katelyn on that one. She probably has her fingers on the evidence a little bit more than I do.
In terms of
avoiding or having dairy or beef or meats in one's diet when it comes to having prostate cancer?
Meats and dairy or animal products are good sources of protein, which is important for maintaining muscle and also building muscle. There are alternatives if people don't want to eat meat or drink dairy. There's tofu, soybeans, tempeh, and also nut milks that they can go for as well.
Right.
So you don't have to eat meat or drink dairy, but that kind of food group is really important as a source of protein.
Okay, so obviously when it comes to diet, it also is all about maintaining a healthy weight or weight loss. So Rob, why is weight loss important in managing prostate cancer?
Well, certainly, one of the issues I think is that once you have a cancer diagnosis, sometimes you can alter your lifestyle somewhat. You can change your eating habits. I mean, it is quite a confronting health issue and a life-changing point. And also, sometimes you also reduce your physical activity. So there's a great risk that the person will put on a lot of body fat. Why is that problematic? Well, in randomised controlled trials and also observational studies, we're now seeing that the trajectory in terms of cancer progression is much worse and less favourable in men who have high body fat and low muscle mass. So body composition appears to be absolutely crucial in terms of your progression of your actual cancer. Also, we know that body composition plays a very important part in how you tolerate other treatments such as chemotherapy, for example. And there's good evidence, more so in breast cancer at the moment, but we're seeing more research around prostate cancer as well, is that if you have high body fat and low muscle mass, then you have much worse toxicities, the side effects of chemotherapy. That can be quite hard on the patient, but more so the medical oncologist may have to reduce the actual dosage of treatment to manage those side effects. They can't get as much chemotherapy into the patient, so you're less likely to destroy the cancer and have a good survival benefit. So definitely body composition is a very important factor in the actual experience of the cancer and your survival trajectory, to be honest.
So obviously exercise and diet goes hand in hand when
Absolutely.
one wants to lose weight, right? So
Yeah.
Katelyn, let's talk about though which diets help in losing weight.
The weight loss that happens in prostate cancer survivorship is not going to be one specific diet that will work for everybody. And it really does need to be coupled with an exercise program to be effective. So again, focusing back to the majority of the diet being fruits and vegetables and whole grains, and then tapering off with meats, dairy, and fats. Really focusing on getting the fruits and vegetables and whole grains in.
What about fad diets? Do people come to you asking about fad diets? Do any actually work?
A lot of people come to me asking about fad diets. Fad diets are diets that are overly restrictive, have unnecessary or just ridiculously difficult to find foods as part of them, or complex cooking methods. Those foods are often expensive and hard to find. And so long term, the diets aren't sustainable.
Right.
Some do have weight loss associated with them because people can't eat a lot of food, so they don't. Or perhaps it is an effective diet, but it's only effective short term. So then people gain the weight back and they yo-yo with their diet.
What's the most outrageous fad type diet that you've heard?
Oh, that's a tough question. I've heard some crazy ones. There's the raw food diet where you can only eat raw food.
Right.
There are diets that cut out everything. I think it was called fruitarian,
Right.
where all you can eat is fruit, and
Right.
that's it.
And these ones, they're not necessarily backed by any scientific evidence, are they? So
No.
that's the first warning sign.
There's not a lot of scientific evidence behind any of the fad diets. And a lot of it is testimonials of people who've done it or celebrities trying to endorse it. But some of the fad diets, I guess, do, again, get people going for those fruits and vegetables, which is a good part of them. It's just that they're not sustainable long term.
Can diet limit progression of prostate cancer?
That's an interesting question. We don't have enough evidence to say anything at the moment at all. There are some animal studies that are exploring that, but they're not at a stage which would be transferable to humans because humans aren't mice and we don't live in a lab with tightly controlled conditions.
Ross, can you tell us a bit about what your diet was like when you were going through your prostate cancer journey?
When I was, or after I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, my urologist asked me to lose some weight. And although I believe we have a healthy diet at our home, after that we focused on lean meats, fish, chicken, lightly cooked vegetables, salads, some fruit, no alcohol and no sugary drinks. and along with exercise, I lost between 7 and 8 kilos 2 months before my prostatectomy. I think that was very important for my recovery as well.
Very soon I want to talk about how important it is to lose weight before any type of surgery. But just wrapping up on this nutrition side of things, we did have a question. Maybe I'll throw it to you, Katelyn. What if one has lost weight as a result of therapy and needs to put it back on?
That's a really good point. Because there are different types of treatments, there will be different nutritional challenges along the way. And weight loss is actually an important thing to address, especially if there's been a loss of muscle mass, which does happen with androgen deprivation therapy, but also happens with things like radiation therapy and chemotherapy and a lot of other drugs. So in terms of weight gain, it's almost the opposite of what a normal healthy diet would look like. You're aiming for diets that are high in fats and high in energy density just to help get that weight back on. But it is really important to go for protein foods during that time to make sure that you can maintain muscle mass and make sure it doesn't break down any further. So lean meats, as Ross was just saying, and also dairy products or dairy alternatives as well.
And where can one get advice on diet?
Advice on diet, you can go to a dietitian. You can also go to your GP to talk about diet and weight loss or diet and weight gain. They may refer you on to a dietitian, but they should be able to talk to you about some of it. And also nurses can help. I think exercise physiologists can say a little bit about healthy diets. So lots of help about diet and healthful diets.
Great. Okay, let's move on now to exercise. Rob, what kind of evidence is there around exercise as a medicine to manage the side effects of prostate cancer treatment, especially ADT?
Certainly. Well, we're seeing a huge increase in the amount of research, high-quality research from randomised controlled trials, showing that exercise as a medicine can be applied right from the point of diagnosis in preparation for treatment, certainly preparation for prostatectomy. And we have a large trial which we've just completed where we're looking at rapid weight loss in these men to try and get them ready for surgery. But I think in particular with ADT, where most of my team's research has been conducted over the last 15 years, it's really about managing the side effects. ADT, without doubt, is highly effective at slowing the progression of prostate cancer. But it does have some quite serious side effects, in particular the metabolic syndrome, cardiovascular disease risk increases, type 2 diabetes. But also, as Katelyn's pointed out, rapid increase in body fat and decline in muscle mass, which is a major problem. And so exercise fits all the bill in terms of addressing those side effects. And we've shown in our studies that we can, with appropriate exercise, not all exercise, it has to be targeted, a bit like diet. It has to actually address the key issues that is facing the man. But with appropriate resistance training, we can reverse muscle loss or even increase muscle gain, and we can control fat. Importantly, though, really diet restriction and caloric restriction is the only way to control fat gain. Exercise is very poor at generating fat loss. Great for muscle gain, not very effective for fat loss.
Ross mentioned earlier about how before surgery he went on a sort of a program to lose the weight. So what can be done to prepare for scheduled surgery in terms of exercise, and what are the benefits?
I think everyone would recognise that any type of surgery, including prostatectomy, is, it's a major insult to the body. And you have to go into it as though you're preparing for a marathon, because that's what it's going to be like. And so it's important that you're fit and you're resilient. Unfortunately, around 2/3 of the Australian population, male population, are overweight or obese. And that's a major issue when we're looking at surgery. The urologists, the surgeons report to us it's becoming increasingly difficult to perform the operation in men that are more and more overweight. There's generally maybe an 8 to 12 week or even longer window there before surgery. That's a great opportunity to intervene, increase cardiorespiratory fitness so you're more resilient, put on a little bit of muscle mass, but in particular, if the man is overweight or obese, you could be able to drop 8, 12 kilos over that period. We just find the surgeons report that the surgery is so much easier. There's less complications, there's less risk of sexual dysfunction and incontinence if we can get the man fit before they have this considerable insult of prostatectomy.
Okay, so when we say exercise, right, what does exercise actually mean? And are there some that are more beneficial than others? For example, if someone just says, well, I've done my 10,000 steps, that's enough, that's my exercise.
Certainly. Look, any type of physical activity is better than none. We've got a major problem in Australia, well, most of the the modern world, is that most people are sedentary. More than 2/3 of the population are sedentary. Interesting how that's the exact same figure of people that are overweight and obese. And this is a major, major problem. So any sort of physical activity will be of benefit, but certainly if we can determine those factors which are causing the greatest morbidity and mortality for the patient and target them specifically. So if it is excessive body fat, obviously the exercise is predominantly high caloric use, so high energy use and some restriction of intake to drop that body fat. And that does mean, unfortunately, about 150 to 250 minutes per week of moderate aerobic exercise, because that burns a lot of fuel and that helps to drop fat. But if the patient, as again, many men, particularly older men, have low muscle mass, that's a problem. Because they have low muscle strength, they're more likely to fall, they have trouble with, function, tasks of daily living. And so the program's quite different. It requires targeted resistance training, supplemented with diet, high protein intake there to maintain muscle mass or build muscle mass. So I think the main message is don't be sedentary, get off the couch. That's absolutely crucial that you move. However, we can be more sophisticated than that and actually look at the risk factors and then target them specifically to have a tailored, we're very much talking about tailored or precision exercise medicine now.
Ross, how important was exercise to you?
Exercise has always been important to me. I've had an active career, a physical career. I've always played sport. I still play tennis. I sail a laser yacht. And of course, I go to the prostate cancer specific gym called Prost. And I find that is just almost central to the way I live my life now. It's a fabulous thing going to a specific gym as well. I'm meeting men who've also been through prostate cancer. We all have our own stories, but we share our stories. And the new chums do come in with a bit of fear. By the time they've finished a few weeks with us, they too are telling stories and being part of the whole group. Exercise has been central to where I've needed to be since the prostatectomy.
What about during and after? Did you have to adjust the types of physical activities when it comes to exercise or sport than you were doing before?
Immediately after the prostatectomy, you're cathetered, and so there's no activity then. And for the first 6 weeks, it was very gentle exercise, if any. And then I returned to the gym, and that again was a slow progression to get back to where I was before. And you do suffer incontinence, and certainly not as strong as you were before. So you do need to be careful how you push yourself immediately after.
I assume, given that you were quite active beforehand, having the motivation to get back into exercise wasn't a big deal?
Not at all.
Rob, what would you say to those that are not as motivated, though, to exercise?
Oh, look, that's a difficult one for all of us, I think, getting up early and going out and exercise. And we know that if their clinician is supportive, is a big factor. So if their clinician is across the literature and explains to their patient that, look, if you're physically active, it is likely to increase your chances of survival by at least 50%. That's a huge survival advantage. If you have targeted exercise prescribed by an exercise physiologist, the survival advantage is probably much greater than that. So I think we have to look at exercises as a medicine. And look, radiation therapy is not pleasant either. Certainly a prostatectomy is not pleasant. Perhaps exercise doesn't have to be pleasant, but it's something you may have to do. In particular, if it's an exercise program where we're really trying to fix or correct a major problem that threatens the man's health, then yeah, it might involve heavy resistance training to try and maintain muscle mass, because they're slipping into sarcopenia, and that's a bad road to go down. Certainly, a general physical activity should be enjoyable, and that should be motivating to get out there. I think the key thing is, try to do something that you enjoy and that you will stick at. I think Ross has made a great point. If you can get mates to do it with, we find one of the, beyond clinician telling their patient that they have to exercise, them telling their partner that they're the man has to exercise. That's very motivating because they have their partners there in the morning say, come on, get on your bike or get your running shoes on, let's go to the gym. That's a strong motivator. We find, though, that once they get in a group with other men going through similar situation, that mateship really helps to bond them. And look, if Ross doesn't turn up one morning, his mates get on the phone and say, Ross, where the hell are you? Oh, mate, I'm not feeling that good today. I'm a bit tired. I don't feel that good either, but I'm here. Get your butt down here. That sort of peer support and motivation is exceptionally important in terms of getting the men to continue to exercise.
So, Sally, just on that, how do nurses introduce the concept of exercise?
Nurses are really well placed to actually introduce the concept of exercise because they're linked in really early, and it's both talking about the need to do it, but also helping with options to access programs. And I think it's really important to introduce the concept of exercise early, but to reinforce it along the way and stress those physical and psychological benefits. When a man's diagnosed, there's a lot going on. There's in a state of shock, there's a lot to learn, medical terminology, different titles of different healthcare professionals, other tests that need to be done. And so when I talk to a man, I'll say, it's really busy at the moment and the next couple of weeks are really going to be a bit messy with other tests done, but there will become a time where there'll be a treatment decision made, and then generally, as Rob was saying, there's a period of time where you're waiting for that treatment to be delivered, and it's really important to revisit the exercise concept then, because sometimes that can be several months, and it's a great opportunity to get going in something that has really good benefits. And there's a lot of research now in that, what we're calling prehabilitation, the benefits of getting in early, both in terms of pelvic floor exercises from a continence recovery point of view, but also weight reduction, getting the body sort of more finely tuned to then be able to cope with the recovery period. So I really think that nurses getting in early and reinforcing and helping, making it easy is a really good side of the role.
Obviously, we said it before that all of these things go hand in hand when we talk about diet, when we talk about exercise and advice. So it's almost like getting three or, different pieces of advice from different people, right? So how does a dietitian work with someone that's providing the exercises and the nurse? So how does everyone work together?
There's several ways. I mean, obviously, any clinician, whether it's a nurse, a urologist, a dietitian, having a consultation with a patient will correspond with the key players. Also through the multidisciplinary team meetings that most major centres will have, allied health professionals and the medical teams and the nursing teams will be together discussing. So communication is vital, but also making sure that the man himself understands who are these people in the team, because there's always a team. No one should ever be alone going through this. It's just different people will jump in and out of that process to deliver a service that's needed at that time.
We had some specific questions when it comes to exercise. So, Rob, I might throw them your way.
Sure.
Incontinence post-surgery is a common concern, and how do you handle it in a health or exercise sense? What can you say there?
Sure. Look, it is a major concern, and it's interesting because we've had men come to us, and we're doing a lot of research around cardiovascular disease and diabetes, and patients have come to us and said, look, that's semi-interesting, but the things that are really impacting our quality of life is sexual health issues and incontinence. That's creating major problems for us. So it's a major problem that has to be addressed. The first message is, if you're preparing for prostatectomy, you need to exercise to strengthen those pelvic floor exercises as much as possible. It will also help the surgery to go better, so there'll be less nerve damage, and so you're less likely to have incontinence, and if you do, it will probably resolve more quickly. So that's important. Prepare for the surgery. Post-surgery, you need a lot of intervention there to regain the strength of the pelvic floor exercise. A physiotherapist is probably the most appropriate allied health professional. They have special training in pelvic floor exercises to help you recover that. That has to be combined, though, with actual exercise physiology intervention as well, because it's a total approach in terms of building up all of the other muscles around the pelvic floor, and also general conditioning as well will also help with the recovery.
So those pelvic floor exercises, they continue indefinitely?
Whilst the man is incontinent, yes, they should be maintained, because that's the most effective path to full recovery. And look, some men may not ever fully recover, but certainly it will reduce the severity, most importantly.
Okay. Another common question, cycling. Does it cause any issues?
Look, I get this asked a lot. Look, first off, cycling does not cause prostate cancer, okay? It can cause your PSA, the marker of prostate activity, cells to spike, and that's a concern for some men. But that's simply due to the cycling on the seat actually irritating the prostate. It's not related to the cancer itself. So, look, if you have had a prostatectomy, obviously it can be quite uncomfortable. If you've got incontinence issues, if you're receiving radiation therapy and you have bowel incontinence, yeah, cycling is going to be unpleasant. But please, that should not be the message, look, don't cycle. If cycling is the exercise you want to do and you will do, by all means pursue it and do it. Because the worst thing you can do is just say, oh, I love cycling, I can't do it because of my prostate, so I'm going to sit on the couch. That will only result in a worse outcome. Get out on your bike. If you want to cycle, get out and do it.
Okay. Let's talk about lifestyle, if we can, in the broad sense. Are there any lifestyle changes people should avoid after a prostate cancer diagnosis?
Well, my only message is don't be... look, I realise it's a terrible life-changing event, but the worst thing you can do is go home in the dark, sit on the couch, okay? You have to get out, interact with your mates, interact with your family, and you have to stay physically active. Do not be... if you are sedentary, you need to change your lifestyle towards a more active lifestyle immediately. If you're already active, try and stay as active as you can.
I'd concur with that completely.
Ross, well, given that you said that, you mentioned that you went to a gym called Prost, or a program called Prost Gym. How has it affected your life, both pre and post surgery?
A lot more time in a gym than I used to do. The pre-prostatectomy, I went to a physiotherapist, Jo Milios, where she was testing my ability to hold my pelvic floor muscles and gave me lots of exercises to do at home as well. And then then go back to the gym and have that further reinforced by the exercise physiologist has certainly made a big difference to me, and I think I've lost the thrust of your question.
How has the gym affected your life? So, and what exactly are you doing in there? Because I guess when we say gym, we think weights, right?
Yes.
So what kind of exercises
all
are you
right,
doing?
we're doing all the normal gym exercises: cardiac, resistance, stretching, general other things like your pelvic floor, balancing, just trying to maintain as much fitness as possible and balanced across all those parts of your body, if you like. I think the interesting thing is that at Prost, the majority of men there are between 60 and 70. A couple of them are in their 80s. We all work to the level that we can possibly do so without injuring ourselves, and working with an exercise physiologist who's specifically trained in working with prostate cancer survivors just means that we come back the next week, we're not injured. It's good.
And how important is it to be there working out with other men going through the same thing?
As I intimated earlier, the fact that you're in a group of people who've gone through similar or the same issues as you have, to be able to talk about where they are at the moment, what they went through previously, that we all can share those stories and share them in a safe place has terrific advantages over a general gymnasium where you could be on your own or with people who have no understanding of where you're at. So it's a very special place, this particular gym.
Rob, is there any time where exercise isn't recommended?
No. So long as it's properly supervised in the right environment. So we are, for example, running a very large trial, international trial at the moment in men with advanced metastatic castrate-resistant prostate cancer. So these men are now palliative. There's no cure for them. It's just trying to maintain their survival as much as possible. These men have had prostatectomy, androgen deprivation therapy, radiation therapy, chemotherapy, and they're now on the super anti-androgens to try and slow the disease. And these men are exercising and they're lifting weights. They're doing high-intensity intermittent training. The purpose is just to try and keep them as fit and healthy for as long as possible. The overall outcome of the trial is actually to see if exercise, targeted exercise, will extend survival. So it's all about the correct supervision. In this case, we have accredited exercise physiologists with a lot of experience in working with cancer patients, monitoring and supervising the program. And it is in an exercise medicine clinic within a university or a hospital, and so the level of supervision is very high. And that's a very safe environment, and the risk of something going wrong is extremely low. However, you know, the man exercising by themselves in the backyard or out in the shed lifting weights, that's a risky situation. And so there definitely, you know, there'll be certain men with certain issues that shouldn't be doing that. If they're at high risk of heart attack, then, you know, obviously they shouldn't be doing that in that uncontrolled environment. So to answer your question, there's no situation or no medical condition which would preclude exercise apart from 6 absolute contraindications, which only affect less than 1% of these patients. And the main thing is that you get with someone, an accredited exercise physiologist that can just prescribe a safe and effective exercise program for you.
Sally, obviously we've heard a lot about the importance of exercise, right? But what are some of the common opinions patients may express about doing it or not doing it?
That's a good question. I think the opinions could be loosely grouped in 2 groups. So one would be the kind of chap who regularly exercises anyway and is worried about the impact of a period of recovery on not exercising and is very keen to know, when can I get back on the bike, when can I start running
like
again.
Me when I've got a bad back, I just want to jump back
exactly.
to the gym.
They're champing at the bit. And that's a really important question to ask the treating clinician as to when can I start exercise again, and also, do I need to start slowly? Are there things I shouldn't do for a little while? That sort of thing. And then the other group really are those who should exercise but don't. And it's not uncommon to hear, or I do exercise because I work in the garden a lot, or I play golf once or twice a week, or I walk to the shops every day to get the paper, that sort of thing. And it's really important then to pick apart the understanding of exercise. And lots of people think of exercise as something you do like running or walking, but they don't really understand the difference between resistance exercise, aerobic exercise and that sort of thing. And it's a really good opportunity to bring in some education and then to say, you know, this is a science. There's scientific evidence about this, and the importance of a tailored program, as Rob was saying. So that second group really are the group that we need to work with more, and it's changing opinions and building a knowledge base, and then smoothing the way to access these sorts of programs. In terms of opinions as well, men will worry about some of the financial costs. So things have changed over the last few years, and access and the cost is quite different to what it would have been 6 or 7 years ago. And also urine leakage is a worry. And there are definitely many men who are hesitant to exercise because they're worried about urine leakage. And there's a few things that can be done. So things like making sure the bladder's empty before the exercise starts, getting some advice from a continence nurse in terms of continence aids, finding the right product. Some are big and bulky and will be an impediment going out for a walk or a jog. There's a lot of different products on the market. And also there's a really good website called the National public toilet map. I don't know if you've heard of it. If you Google toiletmap.gov.au, and it actually has a route plan in it. So you can plan the route that you're going to walk or run, and it will map out for you where the public toilets are along the way. And I've certainly had a number of men who are regular joggers who, particularly after surgery, have used that to work out, well, this is going to be my route to run today, based on where those public toilets are. So there's a few things that can be done to overcome those sorts of things.
I guess one of the big barriers, and Sally, you touched on it there, is cost. So let's talk about eating well costs money sometimes. Going to the gym or exercise can cost money. So Katelyn, let's start with you. Especially when it comes to eating well, is there any financial support, or if not, what resources are there so that you can eat well?
It's funny that you say eating well costs more, because eating diets that are high in fruits and vegetables and whole grains is actually cheaper than buying a lot of pre-made foods. So already that's part of that. In terms of getting specific help for diet and exercise, a dietitian is the best person to see, and they do cost money. If you go to your GP, they may be able to find you a dietitian who is subsidized. I'm sure Sally would have much more expertise in finding services that are available for diet or dietitians specifically.
What kind of services are there?
Well, certainly from the whole allied health professional group, for those who have private health insurance, it's a little bit simpler, because generally access to dietitians or physiotherapists or exercise physiologists are generally covered by private health insurance and extras, and sometimes there's a small gap, but it's pretty much covered. For those that don't have private health insurance, you can see your GP to talk about a chronic disease management plan, which will provide 5 visits to an allied health professional, depending on what your need is, whether it's dietitian or physio or exercise physiologist. It is limited per annum to 5 visits. So in that setting, if you access, say, an exercise physiology program through there, it's important to say up front, I've got 5 visits. I need a program that I can then take back into my home setting. That is still way, way better than sitting on the couch and not going at all. If you are being treated through a public outpatient department, sometimes there can be access to dietitians and physios and social workers and all sorts of things through that department. It's a matter of asking that question of the nurses or treating clinicians you see. And in terms of exercise programs, there's various entry points. Some hospitals are running their own programs, whether it's part of a research study or independently. Some brands of hormone therapy come with some additional exercise support. Now, your treating clinician will be the best one to decide what brand you're prescribed, but there is no harm to ask the question as to whether that does come with an exercise program. So sometimes there's access through there. So there's a variety of different access points, but it's a matter of asking that question through GP, nurse, treating clinician to get the support that's needed.
Robert, I'd be curious to see if you've got anything to input there when it comes to costs or financial support when it comes to exercise medicine.
Look, I think Sally's really covered that very, very well, and we certainly, with our patients, rely a lot on the chronic disease management plans. GPs can develop that with a mix of allied health, perhaps some visits with a dietitian and consults with an exercise physiologist. Certainly an exercise physiologist will look across the patient holistically and look at, well, what access do they have to facilities? What's their financial capability around affording an exercise program? And certainly an exercise program can be designed specifically for the patient that has no cost at all, which could be done safely in the home. There's certainly a lot of apps now and support available. I agree that many of the pharmaceutical companies now that produce the ADT drugs are providing fantastic high-quality exercise programs delivered by telehealth remotely that you can get on your web page or on your smart device. So, yeah, we're very conscious of tailoring the exercise prescription to the patient's access to facilities and their ability financially for different. I think we will see, though, a dramatic change in this. We are seeing that, I think even federal government's recognising that these approaches around diet support and exercise is way cheaper than having the patient turning up 6 months later back in hospital. And we're seeing a growing momentum there for support through Medicare, and certainly private health insurance is also, very cognizant of the fact that if they do support the patient with changes in lifestyle, targeted diet and exercise, their overall cost down the line will be less. And so it is changing. I'd like to see it change a lot faster.
Yep.
So all our audience out there, if you know your local member of parliament, you need to rattle their door.
It's as if you knew what my next question was going to be. Well, because it's should there be more done, whether it be by the government or, say, private health insurers, about providing more access to exercise, for example?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, here you have a drug which has no side effects. It has enormous volume of research behind it showing the efficacy and safety. And it's relatively inexpensive, certainly compared to any other medical treatment. And it treats all chronic diseases simultaneously. It manages most of the side effects of prostate cancer treatment in particular, extends life, and most importantly, I think, it really helps with quality of life and mental health, which I haven't touched on, but that, Ross has alluded to it, that just the fact that exercise as a medicine is so powerful for reducing depression and anxiety. And we need government to realise this and get behind it. And if a good example is if you're a veteran and you have a Veterans Affairs DVA card, a white or a gold card, you can access ongoing exercise physiology services throughout the year. So beyond your 5 visits through Medicare. Fantastic. And look, hey, they deserve it 100%.
Whose responsibility is it to hand out this type of information?
Look, I think the PCFA is doing a fantastic job in making people aware of this, but a lot of people just don't, as Sally said, they've got so much on. Certainly the specialist nurses are fantastic at directing patients to these sort of resources. That's important as well. And that's where we see certainly it's not your urologist or your oncologist. They're trying to manage the medical issues, and they're pretty busy with that. So it really comes back to the specialist nurses. I just wish we had more of them funded across the country. And certainly PSA is so active in events like this to try and promote and educate people around the opportunities they do have to have a lot of these very important strategies actually supported.
Okay, so we've got about 10 minutes just to wrap up some final thoughts. Maybe we'll start with you, Katelyn. To what extent do you believe in the healing or preventative power of food?
Of food. I think having a healthy diet and maintaining that long term is going to make your life a lot smoother and easier. It will prevent a lot of issues down the road. It's not something that is going to solve problems right now, and it's not a treatment at the moment. But long term, well-balanced diet, yes, definitely preventative, wonderful powers.
Do you get asked a lot about a superfood? Is there one or two particular type of foods that might do me well?
That is a really common question, and it's a popular term, these superfoods. It's a marketing term to try and sell more of a specific food. There is not really such thing as a superfood. And as I said before, a variety of foods gives you the variety of nutrients that you need to be healthy. And if you're cutting out foods or just focusing on one specific food, you're not going to get that variety that you need to maintain health.
And earlier we were talking about costs, right? And typically an organic type product would be costlier than something that isn't organic. Is there benefit in that organic product?
Oh, there's so much controversy around that question. There's a lot of conflicting evidence about organic foods or chemical-free foods versus non-organic foods. It's too challenging to pick apart those two things because people who eat organic foods are more likely to be eating more fruits and vegetables in general. They're also more likely, as you said, they cost more, so they're more likely to come from a high SES background. So you have some of those social determinants of health feeding in, like better access to healthcare and better, more frequent consultations. So you can't really tell if it's all the other stuff or specifically the organic foods that is contributing to cancer risk or cancer prevention. So I think the main thing to take away is that eat fruits and vegetables, please.
Rob, can you run us through what some of the prostate cancer research projects currently being run at your Exercise Medicine Research Institute are?
We have 2 major projects at the moment. The first one I've already mentioned, it's funded by Movember for $10 million, and it's a worldwide exercise trial. We have 25 sites across the world, Europe, Asia, North America and Australia, and it is very much about exercise. We know that physical activity will help you to survive longer, but we don't know why, and we don't know if it's reverse causality. We don't know that perhaps people who are more physically active are simply feel better, and so they have better survival. We need a randomised controlled trial to demonstrate causality, and that's the trial that we've been funded. I'm leading it, that trial. And it's 890 men with advanced metastatic castrate-resistant disease. So these men are palliative, as I mentioned, and we're actually, their median survival, depending on where they live in the world, is 30 months. And we've powered the study to see if a very targeted, highly sophisticated exercise medicine prescription will extend that to 43 months. And if we find that, then I think we'll see government change. I think we'll see that Medicare will say, hey, well, this is important, this exercise medicine, we need to invest in it. At the very other end, we have a very important trial led by my colleague, Professor Daniel Galvao, and that's funded by the NH and MRC for $500,000, and that is at men with active surveillance. So these men have low-risk disease, and their physician has said, look, let's just wait and watch. We don't want to operate, we don't want to put you on any drugs because the side effects may have worse outcome than the disease. But of course, guys are not comfortable with that. They go, oh, get it out. They go home to their partner and they go, oh, you're just not going to do anything. It doesn't pass the pub test. They go down to the pub and their mate say, hey, you're going, oh, not real good, I've got prostate cancer. What are you doing about it? Oh, nothing. My doctor said we should do nothing. And they go, ooh. And it doesn't pass the pub test. So what we're doing is we're using targeted exercise medicine so they'll be able to say, no, I'm treating it, I'm taking exercise medicine. So we're hoping that they'll be more satisfied with their treatment decision because we want to delay them taking active treatment, surgery or therapy because it may actually result in a worse outcome. But also there's very strong evidence now, mainly in animal studies, but also in some limited human studies, that the exercise will actually suppress the tumour progression. And so in all likelihood, the disease will never go to the next stage simply because they've changed their lifestyle, they've adopted a more healthy diet, and they've started to exercise. And so we've got those two major studies running.
You mentioned exercise as a medicine, right?
Yeah.
And we spoke about mental health and prostate cancer in an early webcast that viewers can watch on the Prostate Cancer Foundation of Australia website down the track because it's there, so watch that after this. But how important is exercising one's mind when going through prostate cancer?
Well, unfortunately, a lot of the prostate cancer treatments do impact cognitive function, particularly ADT. The reason why is testosterone is just so important for the brain. It's a great hormone for the muscles, but it's also a great hormone in terms of maintaining your cognitive acuity. And of course, when you go on ADT, the men report that they've got memory issues and they can't think as quickly. Interestingly, again, exercise seems to actually reduce that side effect as well. Exercise is a medicine because it produces chemicals within our body. Many of those chemicals are the drugs that are produced and exogenously given to the body to try and manage it. But when we exercise, we produce endogenous medicines. They're actually produced within the body. A couple of those in particular is a very powerful hormone called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. It's actually produced in the muscles when we exercise, and its main impact is on the brain, to help it remodel and to maintain its health and its function. So exercise affects all systems in the body, including the brain, and it can really help to reduce your risk of that cognitive decline. And that's why it's so effective, because other hormones produced, like the endorphins, are really antidepressive. And so good research now is showing that exercise is as effective as the leading antidepressant drugs in terms of reducing clinical depression.
Ross, fitness should be a lifestyle, right? So how has staying fit most of your life helped you?
Well, it certainly has been helpful when there have been obstacles to health. There have been obviously the prostatectomy, and being fit, being able to get back to a normal life quickly was important. I can cite a football team I played for in 1964, and we won the premiership. And we meet every year and we have a lunch, and of the 20 players, we've only lost one. So I believe the healthy lifestyle not only is good for mental health, physical health, but longevity as well. It seems to be, it's apocryphal, but I believe that it's there. It does help.
Sally, you've got the floor for the final remarks.
My advice would be, whilst the focus is on prostate cancer, and so it should be, but I'd encourage men to think beyond the prostate cancer itself and think about their whole body, and look at the physical and psychological benefits of exercise in terms of coping with the treatment, recovering from that, helping with side effect management, helping with fatigue. It's like having an engine, a finely tuned engine with the best mechanic money can buy, but if you're driving on flat tyres, you're not going to get the greatest efficiency out of the vehicle as a whole. Being informed, ask questions of the healthcare professionals that you meet, and also it's a great benefit for partners. It's something that men and partners can do together, and we know that partners of men with prostate cancer are dealing with a fair bit of psychological strain as well, and it's a really positive thing to do as a couple. And a final comment, given that we've been talking about healthy lifestyle and we've had a lot of discussion about exercise and nutrition, but a final plug, if you smoke, please get some support to stop smoking in terms of a lifestyle change as well.
How does smoking, I guess, not benefit?
With smoking from an overall health point of view, so cardiovascular issues, it can impact on recovery after treatment. Other cancers, lung cancer, bladder cancer, the last thing you want is to deal with prostate cancer and then end up being diagnosed at a later date with bladder or lung cancer. So there are lots of really, really good reasons. Plus, if you get support and stop smoking, you have all this money that you can then use to go and exercise and join in some exercise programs. So.
Okay, that was wonderful. Thank you very much to our panel. Appreciate your time here this evening. Well, that wraps up our Ask the Experts webcast, which was proudly supported by Astellas. If you joined this webcast late, it will be uploaded on the community section of the Prostate Cancer Foundation of Australia website at a later date. But remember, the website has plenty of other information and resources to help you gain even more knowledge. Our next Ask the Experts webcast will be on testing for prostate cancer, and that'll be broadcast sometime in March. So make sure you register with the PCFA to find out more and be alerted to all the details. I'm Ricardo Goncalves. I'll see you next time.